Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. I know colleagues are going to be joining still for a few moments after our opening. I'm Barbara Czachorska-Jones with ICRG, research group of OCDC, and welcome everyone. And while we are still waiting for colleagues to join in those first couple of minutes, I want to ask our communications manager, Silandi, to please quickly tell us how to join Menti, this wonderful feature that allows colleagues from far away to join in the course of the session. Please, Silandi.
Sure. Thanks, Barbara. Hello, everyone. We're going to be kicking off the meeting with Menti, as Barbara mentioned. So I will be sending right now an invitation for everyone to join in the chat. So all you have to do is go to the chat feature and click that invitation link. And you should be prompted to open the app to answer this question. What city are you calling in from? So we just want to get a little bit of a feel of who all is in the room and where they're coming from around the world. So feel free to go ahead and enter in your response. And if you do need any assistance, you can just type in the chat and we'll make sure to help you there.
Let's see if it works, please. Very good. It works. Hi, Jose. Tell us where you're calling from.
Hi, everyone. Jose Diaz from Mayotte. It's in the Indian Ocean.
Very good. Very good. Wonderful.
Also add, if for any reason the in-app version of Menti is not working for you, you're more than welcome to go to www.menti.com on your phone and enter in the code on the screen, or you can open up another browser as well to use it.
Great. I think it works. We have at least 3 names of cities where we are from, so things are going to be picking up as colleagues still join in. All right, well, welcome one more time to everyone. Can you please, Silandi, show our agenda? We're going to have an interesting session today, including presentations, including a video, including hopefully questions and answers from our team. So I would like to introduce our guests, our special guests today. And these are Paolo Coronado Werner from Equal Exchange Peru, and Maira Elizabeth López López from Norandino Cooperative. So Paula is a coordinator of the CDP program for Equal Exchange, and it is thanks to her that we have the connection with Norandino, and she introduced us to Maira, and we really appreciate that connection and everything that she does to work with Norandino and other cooperatives in Peru. And Maira is currently with the finance team at Norandino Cooperative. And she has the benefit of joining her financial skills with practical experience of implementing climate programs. And that's a very interesting combination and very important one, given the fact that there are so many aspects of programs that we want to learn more about and know more about. If Silandi, you can bring up the next slide. This is a list of very interesting list of comments that we received in the registration box once we asked colleagues to register with this workshop. And as you will notice, it's a mixture of themes that are of importance to our colleagues, some of them touching up on finance, some of them touching on very practical other issues. And as it happens, the last one mentioned here, the measuring emissions, mitigation and removal, and what to do around the emissions happens to be one of the key presentation subjects of today. So I think with this introduction, I would like to move to our first item, which is also inviting a cooperative member to speak for herself. And this is the background of the little video that we are going to see. This is in words of Sabina, the member of Norandino Cooperative, about her problems, her issues, how the cooperative helped her deal with it. This is in English, but there are subtitles, so please look at subtitles and enjoy. Silandi.
Aquí en época de lluvias todo se ve bonito como lo está ahora, pero en el verano las plantas se secan. Antes no podía cultivar mucho por falta de agua. Era bien difícil. Lo poco que se producía no tenía mucho valor. Por el café nos pagaban menos de la cuarta parte de lo que ganamos ahora. Para poder vivir, nos íbamos lejos, trabajábamos para otras personas en lugares donde sí había agua. Me instalaron un sistema de riego tecnificado. Ahora produzco más café y lo vendo a un buen precio. Tengo maíz y pasto para mis animales. Puedo tener una vida mejor. No tenemos mucho, pero tenemos lo necesario. Vivo con mi nietecita, soy viuda y sola estoy sacando adelante mi chacra. Yo pienso que si tendría más agua, podría tener una vida abundante, porque soy una mujer trabajadora.
Thank you. What a nice background. What a nice slice of life in Peru. Maira, the floor is yours. Please tell us more about the challenges and how Norandino faces those challenges.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you to all present here. A good video to start with, showing the reality of many of our producers who are dealing with climate change. Hello, my name is Maira López. I am in the finance area of the agricultural cooperative Norandino. I work since more than 3 years ago, and I started working here as coordinator of climate projects. So now I think I can get experience of finance and climate projects to share with you. So about our cooperative Norandino. Our cooperative Norandino started since 2005, and we are 6,000 of small producers in 7 different regions of the north of Peru. We are producers of coffee, cocoa, panela, and our innovative product, that is the carbon credits, because of the reforestation. So climate change is real. In our country, we can see the real effects of climate change up close, and the producers are often the most affected. What are the problems? Their production can get problems of soil erosion, plagues and diseases, lack of water, as you saw in the video of Sabina, and other problems. If nothing was done, most of them would have to live the agriculture. And for most of them, this activity is the only source of work. So they have to migrate to other places or do another activities. But what solutions can we find? And can we see these problems as opportunities? The answer is yes. And we as a cooperative realize that these needs can be opportunities to find out what mitigation actions we can do for our producers and who can lean on. Next, please. So this is one opportunity that we have is the international cooperation. Norandino has international cooperation through clients and through foundations. Through clients because we sell our coffee, our cocoa, or our panela with clients as Equal Exchange, Altromercato, Original Beans, that I can mention that they are special clients that we have alliance with because they are not only worried to buy our product, they are also worried about how is the life of our producers and how they can improve their situation. So we can apply to different projects to get finance or to do activities for climate actions or social actions. Also, in the other side, we see the foundations. And how does it work? Norandino, as a cooperative, need finance also because we need to finance the production of the different producers that we are. So we work with international banks that finance us, and we try and we are good clients that we pay in the time that it is, and also we have responsibility with our producers. So we are in a bidirectional way with these banks, and they also have foundations that show the opportunity for us to apply also for other funds to get projects for these producers in also mitigation actions for climate or social aspects. Next, please. But there is also another opportunity that now we are hearing more, that are the carbon credits market. Also, Norandino worked in this market of carbon credit since 2008. But how does it work? Well, there are countries in the most, there are companies that has a lot of emissions of carbon. Most of them are in the north countries, and they, because of the action that they do for the business reason, they generate different emissions. So sometimes not because they want to pollute. Now, more and more of these companies has an interest in compensate, in offset these carbon emissions. Some of them because it's voluntary, and other because there are some regulations for the government. On the other side, we can see that there are environmental projects. Most of them are in the southern countries, as Peru, that I am from. And these projects can be for reforestation, afforestation, regeneration, and others. And these projects can capture the carbon. So we make a market between these companies and between these projects. The projects can capture the carbon, and they can give a carbon offset credit certification to these companies, and these companies will finance the projects that we have here, so we can do the activities. Because activities, for these climate activities, we need, I think, a considerable budget, because there are studies, there is also a cost of certification, is also a cost for the implementation of the nursery, a technician team that has to be with the producer. So we need finance to do all these activities. But we can get these companies that want to offset these carbon emissions. Next, please. So there are different kinds of market also in this carbon credit system. is the regulated market and the voluntary market. The regulated market is because the government says in some countries that these companies has a limit number of carbon emissions that they can. So these companies are obligated, I think, to offset their carbon emissions. And also there is the voluntary market. There are companies that they make the food print, that they want to know how are the carbon emissions that they have, and they want to offset voluntary these emissions. Norandino works in the voluntary market, but also it's important to have the certifications to make this system transparently. There are different certifications that the different projects can apply. For example, we have PCS, Gold Standard, Plan Vivo, Fair Trade. Norandino works with Gold Standard and Fair Trade. Next. And how was the process? I think it's important to mention the process because here we can also know about the cost and about the finance, how we work. In 2008, it started with the study of pre-feasibility. It started with an idea, and it started because we have some clients in Netherlands that mentioned about the carbon credit system. In that year, it was not well known, so it was really a new idea for us, but we investigated and we tried to get into this system. So we saw some options. First, carbon sequestration in the coffee production system, then carbon sequestration through reforestation in the coffee area, but these two options didn't work it for us. And why? Because as we are small producers, the area of the producers is really small and also is really far away from the other producer and for the other producer. So the cost for measure all the carbon that was offset was really high. So it didn't have a cost benefit. But we saw a third option, that is the carbon sequestration through reforestation in the highlands. It complied with three things: cost benefit, additionality, and permanence. So also comply with the requirements of the certification that we chose in that moment, that was Gold Standard, and that was community areas that was deforested since 10 years ago, and also that didn't compete with another agricultural activities. So as I mentioned before, the climate activities has a really high cost because we need different actions to do, people who are working there, and also studies, investigation, the payment for the certification, the implementation of the nursery and others. And in that moment, we didn't have the money to do all that activities. So how we did to get into this finance of the project for the reforestation? Well, we get into this carbon credit market and we sell these carbon credits for the future. What does it mean? It means that we make an agreement with the client, that in this case is Fair Climate Fund. We make an agreement, and in the agreement says that we are selling, for example, 1,000 carbon credits in a specific price. They gave us the money in this moment, and we can start with all the activities. And then when it's the certification and verification 5 years after, we can give the carbon credits that they bought in this first moment. So it's how we can finance the activities of these activities for the project. Next, please. So now we have the reforestation project Sierra de Piura. In the project that we have the carbon credits, and the objectives are contribute to the mitigation and adaptation to climate change, and also improve the quality of life of rural communities. Next. It's important to see that we have environmental and also social impacts. What are the environmental impacts that we could get? Since 2010 that we started the reforestation, we have reforested more than 500 hectares between exotic and native plants. Exotic like pine tree, and it is because this tree can get more carbon of the air because it grows faster. And also we have the native plants that we put in the water basins of the lands to take care of the water. Next. Here, I wanted to show how was the before and after of our highlands of the producers. As you see in the before picture, these areas didn't were with nothing because they didn't practice agricultural in these highlands, and also it wasn't with another plants, and now we have the reforestation. Next. What about the social impacts? Well, as I mentioned, to get our finance, this client make a buy of the carbon credits for the future. So they make a following of how we are working because we will give the carbon credits 5 years after. So they are not worried about just to give the money and then receive the carbon credits. They are worried what activities, what we are doing with the budget. So we make a budget together with the producers and with the clients. And now we work with 13 committees. We have 545 producers, 21% is women and 79% is men. It's important to mention this because in these highland areas, the situation is, the economic situation is not so good. And also before the woman was really separated of the working of the men. But in these reforestation activities, the woman and the men participate in the same activities. So it's really interesting to see how the situation is changing also with the project. Also, the project offers an income for these producers because of the work in the nursery and because of planting in the definite areas. Also, because we work with a certification that is fair trade, we have an additional premium for the producers, and they choose what they want, what they need to do in their community. For example, the last year they chose to use it in a construction of a community house to make the meetings. Also, for the long term, they have wood that will serve for energy in their homes because they don't have kitchen as they are in the cities, and they need to cook the wood. Also, we can offer trainings for them so they can be more, they can have more knowledgement and they can be more productive and more together as community to make other actions for them, for example, with the municipality. And finally, we have benefits for the coffee producers because they are in the middle basin area and they get better water and more water for the highlands. Next, please. So here are some examples and some pictures about the work that we do with them, thanks of the budget that we receive with the selling of these carbon credits in future. And for example, we have the trainings in the first picture that is for women and for men. And also it's interesting to mention that there are activities for food security also, because they weren't not common to eat these vegetables. And now through another foundations like Producers Direct and other clients, they also can complement this reforestation project and work with these producers, giving these opportunities of these complement projects. Next. So for me, it's interesting also and important to mention that the work is not only do it for Norandino or do it for the clients or the producers. It's a work together. It's a work that is made by the producers in that field, is made by the financiers that buy our carbon credits or that offers the projects, and it's made by the organization that in this case is Norandino, but also can be other cooperatives or other organizations that wants to replicate, and it's a fight together against the climate change. Next. So thank you to all of you. It was a pleasure to explain this project to you, and I am attentive to your questions.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Maira. This was pretty amazing. I think, you know, as we move to this session's second component, questions, answers, comments, I would like to start us off asking Paula to just say a couple of words also about that collaboration with Norandino and their participation. But please, everyone, use the chat box or just raise your hand and we will proceed benefiting from this great team and the wealth of knowledge that she was willing to share. Paula?
Thanks, Barbara, and hi, everybody. Thanks, Maira, for the great presentation. Well, as many of you know, and Maira explained, we have a commercial relationship before the CDP project. Also, with Norandino, we made 2 CDPs. So it's amazing how they continue facing different type of challenge, like now climate change issues. And what is very important to note is that create a strategy for climate change is a decision. So we have many cooperatives, but not all cooperatives decide to invest or to look for financial support to face climate change issues. So for me, it's very important, and it's we consider that Norandino in Peru is a good example of how making decisions related to climate change can change a producer's life. As you know, it's not only the highlands of Piura, coffee producers benefit from this strategy too. So it's very interesting. And what Norandino is making another activity that Maira didn't mention is measuring their carbon footprint in all the processing plant. So it's very interesting because they are addressing the strategy from different parts of not only at field. They are facing and creating very interesting strategies inside the office, inside the procedures they have with that team.
Great. This is very interesting. Thank you, Paula. I have first questions here coming through the chat box to Elizabeth. Maira Elizabeth, please share what carbon credit does Norandino participate in, and how has Norandino and members benefited from participation in it? You have partly commented on it, but could you again share some of those answers?
Yes. What carbon credit does Norandino participate in? Well, our carbon credits are gold standard and fair trade. Gold standard means that it's a platform, a web platform that shows transparently how many carbon credits we have now and how many carbon credits we are giving to the other organizations that they buy in us. So you can not buy the same number of carbon credits to another organizations, and also you have like a correct registration about the carbon credits that you have and you are selling, and also is certificated with fair trade. And this means that as the product of fair trade, they have a premium. So this premium is for a premium and a minimum price also, that is important to mention, because in the other certifications, the price is lower than the price with the fair trade certification. And the premium is only for the producers, and as the other products, they make a meeting and they choose how to use this premium. And the other question, how has Norandino and members benefited from participation in it? Well, for example, the members now have more incomes for their situation, because in the highlands, they cannot produce, for example, the coffee or the cocoa that we sell is really, really high, and also is really, really cold. The only production is potatoes and their varieties. And it's really interesting that now they have another income for their lives, and also that they have knowledge about the climate change, about activities for climate. They are also benefit because the other institutions that we are working with, they get interested in Norandino because the climate action that we are doing, and they give complement activities for them. For example, the bio gardens that I show in the pictures, but also we have fish farms for them. We have trainings, we have a production of abono. How do you say abono?
Fertilizers.
Fertilizers, organic fertilizers. So it's really interesting that because an activity that we are doing, another institutions want to complement and make this bigger.
Thank you. So as a follow-up question, could you please write in the chat box, or later we'll share the contact and the name and the contact for that organization that has the carbon credit program website, okay?
Yeah, okay.
So another question that has come up, and it's a very interesting, Jose is asking, what are the reasons that you may explain the gender gap in the ratio of producers? Is that something that is specific to Peru, do you think, or other circumstances? It would be great to know. And then a separate question, what are the growth projections in terms of social and environmental impact and the return on investment? That's a pretty heavy one. The return on investment is always a question you want to know.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jose. And about the first question, I think it's something that is really common in our mountains of Peru, because before only the man was the people who was working in the field, and the woman was the people who were in the kitchen, in the house, taking care of the children. And so it's really interesting because 21% is a considerably percent of participation of women now. When we started, also in the products of coffee, cocoa, and panela, most of them were only men who were participating in these activities. Now, with the different trainings, with the different meetings that we have, also we have a person from the team of Norandino, that is our technician team, that is most of the time in the mountains with them. Through that conversations, they have more trust in the work of the woman, and also the woman has more trust in themselves. So they are also participating in these activities, and I think this gender gap will be lower and lower, and I think in the future we can see the participation of women will be higher. And about what are the growth projections in terms of social and environmental impacts and the return of investment? About the social impacts, First, we started with 230 members, 230 producers. Now is the double, but I think in these years is the growing is faster because more and more companies, more and more institutions are interested in the carbon credits market, in knowing about that. So also the finance that is in the market now is bigger. So we can include more communities interested in the reforestation. What happens in Peru? In Peru, it's really interesting because the producers are the people who are interested in these reforestation activities. They know that they have to take care of the environment, that they have to reforestate, that they have to put plants. So they talk the door of Norandino and they say, our community is interested in having a project, what can we do? So now we need more space, we need, it's always the necessary of more finance. So I think this project has to grow and grow more, and also maybe not with the name of this project and not only with this client. I think we can replicate this in the other regions of Peru that we have. And about the environmental impact, well, we can get more offsetting of this carbon, and also we are trying to implement more native plants. That is really important for the project because the native plants can take care of the water. And about the return of investment, it really has had a really high cost in the start. The budget, most of them is for the producers, and for Norandino is just to pay, for example, the technician team that is working. But in this case, what is more important for us is that the producers can has the water necessary, has the trainings necessary, because with this we can also have the production that we sell to our clients. So I think that return in terms of money is not so much, but also it's really important for us what are the return for the activities that will support our producers, and this will support the production for Norandino.
Great, thank you. Great answers. Listen, another one, very interesting one from Chesa. A strong future cooperative rely on youth inclusion in today's cooperative journey. Can you tell us the status of youth participation and how they understand the climate change issue?
Yes, it's really interesting because we see it also in the organizations in field and also in the cooperative here in Piura, in the city. In field, for example, we are trying that more and more young people can get involved, and how we can do that. For example, to the president, secretary, these important members that they choose for the assembly, it's obligatory that they have to have at least a percentage of young members. And also we are trying to, I think it's important the trainings and important the conversations that we have with them to say to also the bigger people that they have to teach the children about the climate issue, about the work for the future in the field, and that they want to get involved. It's important how we offer also the job for them, because it's also a job for them, an opportunity for incomes. And I think it's a way that they can also get involved in these activities. And for example, about Norandino, it's interesting because I think 20% is young people working here. I consider my person a young people, and we have a group of young members here in the cooperative that are trying to make also initiatives, like ideas of projects, initiatives to include more young people in the field and also here in the cities, and to know more about fair trade. That is really important for us, and to get more involved in how a cooperative works. So I think it's important because a young people can get faster to another young people that an older person to a young people.
Great. Thank you. We have several questions from Brian. Brian, since you posted a number of them, could you select one that you think you would most ask Elizabeth, Maira to respond to?
Yes, absolutely. And thanks, Barbara. Thanks to the organizers. Hi, I'm Brian. I'm with ACDI VOCA. I'm living and working in the Washington, DC area. Maira, awesome presentation, really cool initiative. I guess I would pick the last question I put in the chat, which is, looking back on your working with the cooperative, did you find, what advantages did you find in developing the carbon project with the co-op instead of individual farmers? Was it easier to aggregate them, achieve their consent to the project, to share the benefits, and so on? And what are your thoughts on the prerequisites of working with a co-op, or what makes a good co-op, I suppose, ready to receive or to welcome a carbon project? What would be those sort of key ingredients of a co-op?
Okay, thank you, Brian, for the questions. About the first question, well, I can say that for us, as I saw, it's better to work a carbon project with a co-op or an organization that is already installed than with an organization or individual farmers in field. And why? It's because the carbon market is really bigger, also complicated, and also you need to get the trust of international clients that can trust that your organization is really doing activities of reforestation actions, that is really getting the certification to sell the carbon credits. So, for example, we saw that options before. And for example, if there were only the individual farmers that are getting the carbon project, one thing is that it really had a high cost, and they have to put like some money also to do that implementation, not to wait the financing before, because you have to start with something to show, and it's really difficult that the individual farmers has this budget to start. The second reason is because as individual farmers, they don't have like the contacts, like the clients, international clients, because there are the people who are in the other countries, more in Europe or in the United States, that are interested in in buying these carbon credits. So they don't know how to get these contacts, and it's really difficult to sell the carbon credits. And the third is because to show that you really have these carbon credits, it's important that you have a certification. We have the gold standard and fair trade. There are another options, but they need to also have the certification, and also they have to trust in the individual farmers, that it's really difficult to do that. And I think for most of the clients, it's easy to see a cooperative that is already has experience, already has experience with another organizations in coffee or maybe in another areas. So it's more easy to work with them. So for me, that's the reason it's better to work with a co-op or other organization than individual farmers. And about the other question, can you share your thoughts of the characteristics of prerequisites of a co-op? Yeah, it depends of the certifications. For example, for gold standard, the requirements was that there were community areas, that there were areas that were deforested since 10 years ago, and also that these areas didn't compete with another agricultural production. So we find this with the highlands. But I think in another question that you made before says about the coffee production practices and maybe a carbon project viable. So it's also important to mention that now the opportunities are bigger, and I know that now there are also these carbon projects with coffee producers, and we are trying to do that, but it's more, I know that it has more cost because you have to measure more places in our case, because we are small producers and we are really in different places. But there are other cooperatives, for example, that they have like all together, and it's really to do this project. It's really more easy to do this project, and also possibly to make this project with coffee farmers. So what I say you have to do, or the people has to do, is to investigate what are the requirements of the different certifications, and you have to go for the certification that is better for your organization or for your cooperative.
Thank you. Paula, you want to add, please do.
Thanks, Barbara. Yes, just to complement Maira a bit, it is important to mention that Norandino's area of work in all the value chains they work is very, very big. So what this reforestation project is very interesting because they consider and they give the approach of the collective way people from highlands work. For example, something related what Brian mentioned. What do we need? We need to start from this part. How do they build a nursery, or how do they plant? So in the case of this part of our country, it's very important to consider this collective approach to work with the community. It's not like an individual way. They work, they decide all together. So it's very important. This is a good strategy for them to give this project, to work with them, but by this collective way. So it's not the same to work with producers from the coast or the Amazon region in our country. So this is a very, very important thing to consider before making any project, especially with carbon credits, that it's something that is not so known in different parts.
Very interesting. Listen, I'm looking at the clock. We still want to do the Menti, but I want to give the last opportunity for yet another question or a quick comment, please. Anyone? All right, just checking for raised hands. If not, I wanted to ask now, please, Silandi, can you remind us again, how do we use Menti so that we can quickly get some of your feedback? Silandi?
Sure, thanks, Barbara. Now I am sending back an invitation to everyone to join the Menti app through the chat. So I just sent that in. All you have to do is click that link and it should open. And to conclude, this is the question that we want your feedback on, of what was your single biggest takeaway from today's session. And so if you will enter in your response, you can enter in multiple answers if you would like after you submit, but feel free to participate.
Yes, that's a great way to communicate, and we want to use this kind of relations with the participants. Let's see, are there any comments coming? Yes, we have the first comment. Yes, very good. Fair trade certification is an initiative to stimulate the financing of producers. That's a great comment. Youth inclusion is important to further the co-op's efforts. Resilience as a collective approach. Fantastic. Great. Well, while the answers are still coming in, I want to convey great thanks to our colleagues from Norandino and Equal Exchange. And I want to just mention quickly that a similar presentation was made by Maira last November during the Microfinance Week Europe. It was an interesting initiative, a couple of days long workshop in which various financing institutions, larger and smaller, participated, including microfinance. And Judith Hermanson and consultant Isabel Barr and Maira, is the representative of Norandino, have presented some of the issues that cooperatives specifically face in accessing financing for climate projects. So it's still a very difficult area because there seems to be a bit of a gap in between how financing institutions perceive cooperatives as potential implementers of projects. But obviously today's presentation shows us that there is not only an opportunity, but a lot of advantages that are attached to working with cooperatives on those climate issues. So with that, I wanted us to go back to our main screen. Celanti, can you bring us back so that we can all say hello and thank you? And we are going to gather all those questions and answers through our chat box. And if you would like to send any other, please do. And we will share the answers. We will share the different links. And we will share those with everyone for further discussion. It's been great. And I want to say everyone and remind everyone that at 10 o'clock, our colleagues from NCBA are starting their workshop, which is also a very interesting one. So please, everyone, we want to end in time today so that you can actually jump into the other workshop as it starts. Thank you so much, everyone, and see you next time, which will be equally interesting. So hi, everyone, and bye. Thank you all for participating. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.